Consider for a moment the vast, churning ocean of digital communication. Text messages, emails, social media posts, a relentless stream of words punctuated by tiny, colorful faces. A grinning yellow circle, a crying blue blob, a mischievous purple devil. These seemingly simple pictograms, known as emojis, have infiltrated our digital lives with a quiet, yet undeniable force. But where did they come from? Were they beamed down from some alien planet? Or did they spring fully formed from the mind of a Silicon Valley guru? The truth, as is often the case, is far more interesting, involving the peculiar constraints of early Japanese mobile phones and the creative spark of a single artist. However, before emojis were born, there was their ancestors, emoticons. Think back to the primordial soup of the internet, the early days of bulletin board systems and nascent email. Text, and only text, reigned supreme. But human communication is rich with nuance, sarcasm, and unspoken emotion. How do you convey a wink, a shrug, or genuine delight using only alphanumeric characters? The solution, born of necessity and ingenuity, was the emoticon, a clever arrangement of keyboard characters to represent a facial expression. The most famous, of course, is the sideways smiley face, colon, hyphen, closing parenthesis. A simple yet revolutionary idea, credited to a computer scientist named Scott Fahlman in 1982, who proposed it as a way to distinguish jokes from serious statements in online forums. The emoticon was a clever hack, a textual workaround for the limitations of early digital communication. It allowed a glimmer of personality to peek through the cold, hard text. But here's the thing about emoticons. They're still fundamentally text. You have to mentally decode them, turn them on their side, and interpret their meaning. They're a bit like trying to paint a masterpiece with only alphabet soup. Now, let's shift our gaze eastward to Japan in the late 1990s. The mobile phone landscape was rapidly evolving, particularly in the realm of pagers and early internet-enabled devices. Unlike the West, where mobile phones were still largely about voice calls, Japan was embracing text-based communication with a fervor. Teenagers, in particular, were sending countless messages, often infused with the casual banter and emotional shorthand of youth. Enter NTT Docomo, a leading Japanese mobile phone operator. They were developing iMode, an innovative mobile internet platform designed to deliver information and services to users' phones. It was cutting edge for its time, but it faced a peculiar challenge: how to make communication on these tiny screens more expressive. Text messages were limited to a mere 250 characters. Conveying complex emotions within such a confined space was like trying to fit an elephant into a thimble. This is where our hero, Shigetaka Kurita, enters the scene. Kurita, an employee at NTT Docomo, was part of the team working on iMode. His task was to design a user-friendly interface that would appeal to the masses. He noticed a crucial problem. People were struggling to convey emotion in their short messages. Without tone of voice or facial expressions, misinterpretations were rampant. Text, in its stark linearity, was simply too blunt an instrument for the nuanced dance of human interaction. Kurita had a eureka moment. He looked to existing forms of visual communication, weather forecasts that use symbols for sun and clouds, road signs, and even the simple visual cues in manga, Japanese comics, which often employed small icons to express emotions. What if he could create a set of simple, standardized characters that conveyed emotions and common concepts visually? The inspiration was not entirely from thin air. Japanese culture has a long history of visual communication, from kanji characters being pictograms to the extensive use of visual shorthand in advertising and media. Kurita wasn't inventing a new language, but rather distilling complex ideas into bite-sized visual nuggets. So, armed with a tiny grid of 12 pags 12 pixels, a canvas smaller than your thumbnail, Kurita set to work. The limitations were immense. Each emoji had to be instantly recognizable, convey a clear meaning, and be distinct from others, all within this microscopic digital space. Imagine trying to design a masterpiece using only 144 dots. His initial set of 176 emojis were a fascinating mix of emotions, common objects, weather phenomena, and even abstract concepts. There were faces for happiness, sadness, anger, symbols for a heart, a musical note, a telephone, even a poo emoji, famously depicted with an endearing swirl. These weren't just decorative, they were designed to replace words. to convey information more efficiently and expressively within the character limits. The impact of these early emojis on the iMode platform was immediate and profound. They resonated deeply with users, especially teenagers, who embraced them as a new language for their digital interactions. Suddenly, short messages could burst with personality. A simple "okay" could be followed by a happy face, instantly changing its tone from curt to cheerful. The success of Kurita's emojis on iMode sent ripples through the Japanese mobile industry. Other carriers, seeing the popularity, began to develop their own sets of emojis. And here's where things get complicated, and where the suspense, if you will, truly begins. Because there was no universal standard, each carrier created its own unique set of emojis. This meant that an emoji sent from one carrier's phone might appear as a blank box or a completely different character on another carrier's phone. Imagine trying to have a nuanced conversation when every other word gets garbled. It was a digital Tower of Babel, a chaotic landscape of visual miscommunication. This lack of standardization was a significant hurdle. For emojis to truly break free from the confines of individual networks and become a global phenomenon, they needed a common language, a universal set of characters that all devices could understand and display consistently. Enter the Unicode Consortium, the organization responsible for maintaining the global standard for text and characters across all computing platforms. For years, the consortium had been focused on standardizing written languages. But as emojis gained traction in Japan, the need to incorporate these visual characters into the universal standard became increasingly apparent. The process was long, complex, and involved countless discussions about which emojis to include, how to categorize them, and how to ensure their consistent display across different operating systems and devices. Imagine the debates. Does this emoji accurately convey joy? Is a sliced pizza universally understood? What about regional variations? Eventually, in 2010, the Unicode Consortium officially encoded a large set of emojis, providing a standardized framework for their use across the internet. This was the turning point. With a universal standard, emojis could finally transcend national borders and proprietary systems. They could be sent from an iPhone in New York to an Android phone in London and appear as intended. The global explosion of emojis that followed was staggering. As smartphones became pervasive, the emoji keyboard became a default feature, putting these tiny visual characters directly at users' fingertips. They quickly became an integral part of digital communication, adding layers of emotion, humor, and shorthand to our messages. It's a story of cultural context, technological limitations, and the ingenious solutions born from creative minds like Shigetaka Kurita. His vision, initially constrained by a 12x12 pixel canvas, has blossomed into a complex and ever-expanding lexicon of visual communication. The journey of emojis is a fascinating one, from the accidental need for emotional shorthand in early text messages to the deliberate creation of a visual language on a tiny pixel grid. Emojis are no longer just supplementary. For many, they are essential, a way to convey tone, sentiment, and even entire narratives without uttering a single word. Kurita's groundbreaking work and achievement in creating the emoji revolution has received widespread recognition. His original 176 emojis are now part of the exhibition at New York's Museum of Modern Art. Indeed, the impact of emojis on communication is still being studied, but it's clear they've added a richness and expressiveness that text alone often lacks. They've made our digital conversations more human, more nuanced, and perhaps a little bit more fun. The next time you tap that little smiley face, or the thumbs up, or even the mischievous devil, consider the journey it took to get there. From the humble emoticon to the tiny, pixelated creations of a Japanese artist, these seemingly simple images have transformed the way we connect and express ourselves in the digital age. They are a testament to the power of visual communication and the enduring human need to convey emotion, even in the cold, hard world of ones and zeros.